And we're live.
All right. Hello. Welcome on into another Monday Live with the Whiskey Crusaders. I'm Will.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Matt.
Today we are joined by Doug Ward from Whistlepig, and we are ever so excited to be talking to him about all their wonderful rye whiskeys. Matt, who do we got in the chat with us tonight?
All right. We have to wait for the lovely commercials. We can push the skip ad, which is always fun because always it jacks with the chat. All right, so we got How Do You Whiskey, The Mash and Drum, King Jack D, Steve A. Let's see what else we got. Wheels, Donald Rance, Jeremy Burns, The Linux Cat, Ice House, Christopher David, John Crans, Jason Coates, AJ Lopez. Let's see, who have I missed? Anyone? Nathan Clark. All right. Usually reset, and that's what you have to do. All right, so we're good. All right, so we're going to talk about Whistlepig and all these awesome ryes. So, Doug, if you want to take it away, give us history and all that awesome stuff. Oh, there's Eric Evanson. Good to see you, buddy. See you in there. So we'll turn it over to you and talk about the brand and who you are and all this cool, fun stuff.
Cool. Well, Matt, Will, Sarah, first and foremost, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Great opportunity to kind of venture out, meet some new faces, and have a great opportunity to spend the evening and talk about rye whiskey and Vermont and Whistlepig and everything else. So as you guys well know, there'll be plenty of questions for later. So keep those rolling, keep those coming. Just to give you a little brief background about myself, I was in the wine industry for bukus of years. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex or in Texas in general, I started with Crew Wine Bar and kind of was in the operational side there. Went and worked for a small startup distributor that's now called Favorite Brands, but was Avante at the time. Got on the supplier side and basically got introduced to Whistlepig on a business trip in Chicago. We were doing a portfolio tasting as distributors do, and a couple of the reps were like, "Hey, I need to show you a couple products over here," and one of them was Whistlepig. And really, it was one of those things where the first time I tasted it, I looked at the distributor and I said, "Why don't you build me back a couple cases of this Shiraz, and I'm going to take a couple of these bottles." And so every time I was in Chicago, I would just literally trade a couple cases for a couple bottles, and I would go back to my buddy's place because I was staying with him, and we'd consume them. And, one thing led to another. I took a job where I was selling wine and spirits for a little while and helping launch a lot of those things. And then Whistlepig was in their portfolio, and we brought it on. And so I sold it for about a year for that company in 2013, and then came on full-time in 2014. And really, really fun story about it. If you look on Entrepreneur magazine.com, they did a little bit on us, but there was 4 of us that were their original first 4 stewards of the brand for Whistlepig that actually I drove across the country in my truck with my dog. I stayed there for 6 weeks. We had assignments every night. I painted the barns. I fed the pigs. We worked on the bottling lines, the history of the cocktail. It was whiskey boot camp, right?
That's awesome.
Really, really cool. And then we drove back and I started, and literally this was back in the day when we really only had tenure that we were out selling, right? So we've gained a couple extra children in the last few years, that's for sure. But really the kind of diving into Whistlepig 101 and where it all began is our original founder was kind of doing a keep up with the Joneses story, where he had bought a 500-acre defunct dairy farm down the street from a buddy of his that had bought a farm and said, "Hey man, you should buy this farm." He had come into a little bit of money and then invested a lot of it in the stock market and started seeing it tank, and needed to make sure this 500-acre farm he bought in the middle of Vermont was going to start bearing some fruit. One thing leads to another. Lots of other things happened, but more importantly, Dave Pickerel and him got linked up, and we can get deeper and deeper into the Dave story side of things, because there would be no Whistlepig without Dave Pickerel. But realistically, Dave had left Maker's Mark and started consulting business, and he had traveled the world to go to every place that made rye whiskey, because he had never made rye whiskey before. And that was when he stumbled upon Alberta Distillers, ADL in Canada.
Mm.
So that's kind of where everything pretty much began. And it was around a bonfire that they came up with the name, based off of also a rare, weird social, not distancing, but very much in face from a Frenchman on a mountain bike path in Colorado. By the way, a whistlepig is it's like a groundhog, like a marmot, right? But
okay.
So they're called different things in different parts of the world and country. But if you supposedly if you whistle, they pop up out of their hole. And so that's kind of how it all began, and it was really to showcase what rye whiskey really could be. If you just really took something that was pure and bottled it at a high 100 proof and aged it for a minimum of 10 years, which is, obviously what we have in our 10-year bottling. So cool factoid about 10-year and what it would have been. And the reason why we were so very different at the time when we came online in 2010 is when we shipped our first bottles was actually July 4th, 2010. So we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary of the company shipping our first bottles. The plan and perception started in 2007, but really the first bottles went off the farm in 10. If we wouldn't have purchased this juice and done what we did with it, it would have ended up as a flavoring agent in a lot of other whiskeys from Canada. And so no one had ever really done that before, and everybody thought we were crazy. But Dave believed in this category and that it was going to come back. I think we all agree it's come back.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to be one of the leading forces in the luxury and ultra premium category, because really anything over $75, we created that category and we own about 65% of it. So
that's awesome.
kind of a fun little hat to wear, but at the same time, that's really how Whistlepig began and how we got to where we are today.
That's awesome. I didn't know any of that stuff. So that's really cool that's how it all started.
Yeah. And honestly, the luck involved with any good story at the time in 2010, I mean, if you went to a retail shop before that or talked about rye whiskey on a podcast or on a YouTube channel, not many people were drinking it. And if they were probably older, and it was probably very cheap rye whiskey, right?
Yeah, because that's why my parents drank a lot, because they're from New York, because they drank a lot of rye. And so I always had rye growing up, but mostly it was cheap rye. It was, Crown, which isn't even a real, it's rye, but you know what I mean. And then like Old Overholt, stuff like that. Nothing else was really around that they were drinking. So
yeah,
as far as rye goes.
I mean, the oldest is Overholt, right? I mean, that's what most people
by far.
Maybe Rittenhouse. I mean, Bullet was on the on the cusp, but still not making it in near the, or bottling, I should say, in the volumes near that they are today. So
absolutely, yeah. World War II kind of killed that whole thing in the Depression. So unfortunately, but it's back, to say the least. Yeah, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I think I owned 7 ryes, and now I have over 200 different ryes. So yeah, it's grown a lot.
The shelf is full at the retailer, that's for sure, right?
That's for sure. And I'm damn glad they are, because I do love rye.
Yeah, it's been fun. I remember in 13 and 14 going out and telling people the obvious, right? Like what age statements are, and that proof delivers flavor, and why mash bills matter, and what straight on the bottle meant, right?
Yeah, right.
Great news is that everybody is so much better educated these days.
Mm-hmm.
The information is at our fingertips. People are reading, people are drinking, people are learning, and people are asking questions. And a lot of it comes from people like you guys that are doing things like this. I can only reach a certain amount of people when I'm normally out on the road and at airports and in accounts and going to retailers and bars and restaurants and engaging with bartenders. But this is really different, but the same. It's just we're talking in my kitchen instead of obviously at a bar or at a retailer or at a whiskey event or Whiskeys of the World or
in Matt's kitchen. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. When all this crap ends, hopefully we can make that happen. Have a big event here like we used to have before the COVID.
Yeah.
You know, hey,
Good old days.
Oh, the good old days.
we'll make that happen when all this stuff ends. So, you know, it'll be a few months.
Be a stick in the mud, but I think 10 minutes is the longest I've ever gone without something in my glass, good sir. What are we drinking first?
I think we should start with 10-year, which is what we've basically kind of started to roll.
Works for me. Since I started the company, you might as well start with that. And I guess it's a question I haven't. You said, you know, you're from Alberta Distillers. Can you tell anything about them, or are you guys not allowed to speak about them very much?
I mean, the things that I can say are that it is one of the largest producers of rye whiskey, and some may consider the best producer of rye whiskey on the planet. They do a lot of things. I mean, I've been there. We went there before we started with Piggyback, so we went there in the summer of 18.
Okay.
It is a large facility. We had to put on hard toe shoes and wear goggles and hard hats to go on our tour.
Oh, wow.
And they have some of the largest rick houses I've ever seen in my entire life. I tell the joke all the time. I've been in ours and I've been in many, but I've never been in one that had 500,000 barrels. And I literally walked by 500.
Holy crap!
That's insane.
I'm not lying when I tell you I walked 30 feet into this
Oh my gosh!
warehouse, and I was like, okay, I got to walk out. Like it was the breath. I mean, the amount of ethanol in the room. There's a lot of angels sharing in that.
I bet.
So,
oh my gosh!
It's a cool story and lineage also to we can talk about this now a little bit, but we can also talk about it with Piggyback. But the person that we bought our first barrels from is actually our now CEO. So
that's awesome.
It's a fun story because when we went back to develop Piggyback, and the reason why we have Piggyback is because we went back with Jeff and literally kind of said, hey, we want to do this. This is what Dave always wanted when he left Makers, was to have an everyday workable rye whiskey. And for bartenders at home, obviously now, and bartenders on at the bars and restaurants, and just an everyday workable rye. And so it's just great to be able to tell that story, that the guy that actually had traveled the world and sold whiskey to everybody and bought whiskey from everybody is now our CEO, but it's who we bought our first barrels from and selected them from.
That's really cool.
It's honestly the real reason why we were able to corner it the way that we did, and also have the amount of juice that we privately hold, which is more than anyone on earth outside of the people that make it.
Wow. That's awesome. How much of it is held on the farm, or do you keep most of it in Canada before you bottle it? How does that usually work?
We keep, I mean, it's about 25 to 35% is in Vermont and in that area. And then, you know, of course, because we've sourced things that are 1 year old all the way up to 20, 25 years old. And then also we're making our own juice and have been, and just put our second still in this year. So Mauve and Mortimer, which are identical stills named after our two pets. We actually have a Mauve-Liam. Well, the spirit of Mortimer was Boss Hog 2. The spirit of Mauve was Boss Hog 5. So they've both been iconicized in pewter on top.
Yes.
And that's we also have a Mauve-Liam on the farm, so you can actually see their burial. And there's a bottle of Boss Hog hidden somewhere there, so that you can cheers to the two of them whenever you're there up on the top.
Cool.
Overlooks the farm, just basically on the edge of one of our rye fields.
Awesome.
Yep.
How big are your rye fields there that you guys are currently have acreage of?
Well, we've got a 500-acre farm, and you know, there we add probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 acres a year. The good news is that rye doesn't spoil. So if you actually, it's GMO free. So if you put it and store it correctly, it can be possibly, you know, years down the road before you use it. So we've had crop after crop after crop stored and put away so that we could distill from those grains when they became, you know, ready to be distilled. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 30% of the farm is planted right now.
Oh, okay, so a good amount.
Yeah.
You guys plant different types of rye? Is it all one rye, you guys, and are just totally different varietals you guys are using?
They're playing around with all sorts of different stuff. We've actually, played around with growing some corn a couple of years. We've grown all sorts of different things just because we're trying to see what the terroir, the microclimates will bring.
Sure.
Obviously we kind of, gear more towards the pure Monongahela rye as opposed to the Maryland rye, which obviously would not be 100%. But at the same time, just playing around with as much things as we can. And, that kind of alludes to talking about Homestock a little bit. But I mean, that was announced today. And we did that a couple of weeks ago on our first ever really crowdsourcing where we sent out 500 kits from Flaviar to people across the country.
Yep.
So,
Yes.
Will and Sarah, you guys in Texas as well?
Yes, we are.
So
Yeah, we watched the live stream with
The Whiskey Vault.
Whiskey Vault and Bourbon.
Bourbon Night. It's Bourbon Night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really cool to finally see something come to light that is going to have wheated and barley whiskey along with the rye and a sub 50% rye offering from Whistlepig. So
It should be very interesting when they come down to Texas here. We can try that.
Matt,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Quick, I poured both the Whistlepig 10-year and this Whistlepig 10-year goody store pick.
Yeah.
What's the percentage? What's the percentage on the store pick?
118.3.
That's,
We'll get to that in a little bit.
I find that the 116 to 120 10 years are right in my wheelhouse. I really, really like the higher proofs. You'll find that a lot of character comes through in a lot of those higher proofs. And then when you dilute them, obviously you get more tannin. Sometimes it's normally opposite whenever you get some of the lighter proof. When I say lighter proof, I'm talking, 101 to maybe 112, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Lighter for us, right? It's all relative. You get a lot of tannin sometimes on the front. And then once you start to dilute it with a drop or two or one cube, a lot more of that, voluptuous character really starts to come out, and the rye spice starts to pop, and you start to get a lot of different nuances in the whiskey. Some people get dill, some people get, obviously most of our whiskeys really come with that huge butterscotch or caramel on the backbone. That sugar really drives the rye spice all the way through. And as Dave used to say, with the length as long as a zip code.
I like it.
I like that.
Yeah. But this is forever and in a day. 10-year will always be our baby. It will always be what started the company. It's all obviously the one that most consumers, if they know Whistlepig, they know 10-year, or they've read about Boss Hog, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll do both, so that solves that problem.
You've got plenty of options there to your choosing there, Matt.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk about store picks and about club picks, or you want to do that later?
We can do that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess since Will brought up the goody pick, it's 118.3. This one's probably from about 3 or 4 years ago. This particular pick that's from Goody.
That is probably at least 3, maybe 4 years ago. Because
that's one of my first one after 10. I got that one.
If it's got a handwritten label, that is an OG single barrel.
Yep, sure is. It's all handwritten.
Yeah. So the basics for the store picks are they are 22 6-pack cases whenever people select them. We've had private groups do it, bourbon groups do it, companies buy them for employee gifts. You name it, it's out there. I actually got some samples in today. Obviously, I didn't get them here because the joke goes we can't get anything shipped to us directly in Texas, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I received them today from where they were shipped today. And the the cool thing about it is that normally what happens is you've got about 4 or 5 samples in front of you. And what I like to do is I like to line them up left to right, and I don't tell anybody what the proofs are, even though I know which order they're in.
Right.
And they get to kind of smell through, taste through, and then I dilute them a little bit, probably a drop or two, because everybody knows if it's a restaurant, it's normally going into a cocktail. So therefore, we want to make sure and dilute it, let people understand what it's going to taste like if it's been diluted. And a lot of retailers prefer not to even dilute it because they know that their clientele is probably not going to do that as much. Most people are going to drink it neat,
Right.
or drop, just peeling back layer after layer, just having fun with the whiskey. So once they get to the final, decision, it's about an 8-week turnaround, and we bottle them up and we ship them in, and it all gets cleared out. But everything that doesn't get selected from those, and everything that was in that barrel that doesn't get bottled, gets put into our 10-year and proof down to 100. So those 132 bottles are literally little time capsules that are the only ones on earth from that one barrel. And that's why we figured that sweet spot of 22 cases, 6-packs, that is, is the right number for whether it's a retailer, a group wanting to do it, or a restaurant wanting to purchase. And we've had great success with it. We've got probably the most dynamic barrel program for any rye whiskey company out there, because we can do the 10-year, we can blend the two. If we've got people that get there and they're like, we can't decide between these two, and then they put them together and they're like, we love this, can we do this? And it's like, yes,
Why not?
Wow.
you can play master blender, right? So it's a really unique offering that we have, and is wide open and readily available. So if anybody has any interest, obviously we can talk offline about it. But there's a 10-year program, a 12-year program, and for the first time ever, a 15-year barrel program.
All right, we got a super chat here, so hold on, let me read it, then you can do it. All right, this is from Christopher David. It's a question for Doug: is will the 15-year plus old picks be more available in the future? My local store just did one and just got their bottles, and they are fantastic. All right, thanks, Christopher David. Okay, well, hurry up. All right, ready? You can do it now. All right, do it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well
Okay.
done. Thank you.
Okay, that's enough. Thanks.
Thanks, Violet.
Thanks, Violet.
So
All
I believe the question was the 15-year picks, will they be still available and will be more common? Is that?
Yeah, here, I'll
Throw it up. There you go.
Yep, hold on.
Essentially, yeah. Are we still doing them? Are they going to be more common?
Yes. So for the first time last year, did we make 15-year barrels available for purchase? Actually, in Texas was the first one at Specs. So there's some others that are trickling out across the country, but Specs was the first retailer in the world to pick up 15-year barrel. I'm pretty sure there's probably some still available. And we're in conversation with them to do a little bit more this year, hopefully. I sold the first restaurant their 15-year barrel. It's en route, soon to be here. We can get to that later, but it's RG33, Restaurant Group 33, Union Bear. They've got Verna Rosa and South Lake. They've got the yard.
Cool. They're nice too.
So they'll be rocking and rolling with some 15 single barrel.
Very
cool. And they are available for purchase. So it's the same quantities as all the others. So it's 22 6-packs. In this case, it's 3-packs because that's what 15 comes in. So it's 44 3-packs. But still, it's 132 bottles. And you do get the proof that you do select it at, just like the 10-year, right? So it's a unique thing. And actually, it was on the farm in February. It was my last trip to the farm before all of this was the last week of February. And I actually tried a 15-year barrel sample that was below the 92 proof that it's normally bottled at. 9.5. And it was the most gorgeous 15-year I've ever tasted.
Crazy.
So,
sometimes you just get magic.
Right?
You do.
You just never know. That's cool.
It's really cool. And, they're all unique. Like, I tell this to everybody who's ever selecting a 10-year barrel. and it goes true with anything else. There's never a bastard child. It's just one that jumps out at you.
Sure, absolutely.
And really kind of hits you the right way, right? And that's what normally people go with is their gut. And sometimes their gut doesn't allow them to make a decision, so they end up picking up 2, right?
That's awesome. So I guess Nathan's group here, the Barrel Outlaws, are about to do a barrel pick. Nathan, are you guys doing a 15 or a 10-year pick? That would be interesting to see. He's in San Antonio, so it might be something you guys actually get a hold of if his group's doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was aware. Actually, there was a barrel pick that came in just today from our steward of the brand, Patrick, down in Austin, San Antonio area. And I know that there's a lot of private groups that are doing picks down that way. And honestly, Nathan, you're going to get your hands on some bottles of Whistlepig that have really never seen the San Antonio market, because there really wasn't a whole lot of individual picks going down to San Antonio. We've done a great deal of them in Dallas, Fort Worth. We've done quite a few in Houston.
Oh, yeah, that's what this one is. This is a Houston. This is a Little Pickle 13-year pick.
Oh, man.
This one's awesome.
I've been looking for that one. I love it.
Have you really?
Yeah.
See if you need one. Let's see if some people might have some still around. I can ask. We got another question from Donald Rance. Says, Alberta Premium just did a 20-year-old rye release this past fall. Have you had the opportunity to use any of this older stuff, or are you planning on sourcing some of this at all?
We have not done anything that old just yet, but keep in mind, every release of Boss Hog is going to be something different that we've never done before.
Cool.
So, TBD on what that might be.
Mm-hmm.
We are, if you're saying sourcing, are we going to outsource it? We have zero desire to sell anything we've purchased prior and or so to keep up with the demand and the growth of our brand and what we're here to do and how we're here to provide for all of you on this call and all of us not watching. Also, it's imperative for us to keep all that stuff in-house as much as possible. Definitely. I don't see any way that you won't see something that age in the next few years.
That sounds awesome. I've only ever had a 20-year ride that I can think of. Well, I guess if you counted Crown, I guess they got the Entrapment. That's 25-year Crown. I guess that's a 25-year ride, but your ride's quite a bit different than theirs, to say the least.
51% is the minimum to be considered a rye,
right?
And, they're going to be completely different, right?
Yeah, different market.
You look at our 18-year having 79% straight rye, and the rest being malted rye and malted barley. So there's I'd love to taste a 20-year rye myself, to be honest.
Absolutely,
yeah.
For sure.
I have a Pendleton 20-year. It's mostly grain, though. I mean, it's super grain alcohol forward. It wasn't my favorite.
I haven't touched it in a while, so I forgot.
Yep.
But that 10-year store pick, that was really good. I like that one.
Yeah. Open that 13-year store pick. That's that Little Pickle. That thing that's from NASA Liquor down in Houston. Yeah, buddy, he belongs to that club, and he got me a bottle, and it's freaking delicious. All right, so we got a question from How Do You Whiskey. Says he loves the 2018-19 Shy edition, or is that a Kai edition? I'm not sure. Word on the street that they were Boss Hog rejects. Can I hear it from the horse's mouth? And the 100% mead out of Benny's is amazing.
So if he's talking about Benny's, he's definitely a Chicago edition.
Yes. Oh, that's what he means, Chicago edition. Oh, okay.
Yeah, can you pop that back up real quick?
Yeah, that's true. You're right. He's in Chicago. That's true.
Matt, you said it's a 13-year?
Yes.
112.1?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of Chris Rogers' bottles, so it's going to be awesome. But yeah, I do really enjoy that.
Pop your question back up there real quick?
Sure. There.
Boss Hog rejects. So the Shy edition, I I've never heard that it was anything was a Boss Hog reject per se. So I would think that might be a little bit of a fabricated story, but hey, if you like it, that's fine. The 100% mead, to be honest, I know that they chose that, and I've never had that finish. So keep in mind, we're playing around with so many different finishes for the 12-year, which is what he's talking about, by the way. They're all bottled at 86 proof. They're single finishes. There's quite a few of them available at Specs, Total, Pogo's here in Texas. Benny's obviously got a group of them as well. Yeah, there's so many cool, fun, different 12-year finishes that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a mead finish. That's cool. I have to check that out. See if I can get a hold of one of those.
Yeah.
That works. Oh, we
They're
got a few other channels in here too. We got Jason the Mashing Drums in here. Ed Rockgut Review. My Bourbon Journey just came in here. So say hi to all the other channels. You know, Ed's a huge rye fan, so he's probably very excited at the moment.
I'm actually drinking a 12-year single finish of 100% Amarone.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the 12? We can move on to the 12.
Yeah, we can move on to 12.
All right. So the one I've got is what it looks like is this red label. Mine is a 63% Madeira, 30% Frat Chateauneuf, and 7% port at 86 proof.
That is the regular 12-year Old World.
Okay.
So you've got 30% Sauterne. You get a ton of that banana peel, tropical fruit. That's where the residual sugar comes from. The Madeira at 63% is really the blue fruit and a lot of what elevates the rye spice. So it really runs alongside with it so well. That's why it's the bulk of the blend. And then that port being at 7% is really where inky dark fruits come in. That backbone structure at 7%. There are some blends that are out there because bespoke blends can be that they can blend their own. And so you've got to walk within the lines, so to speak, of certain percentages because you can't have 100% port or 100% Sauterne. Those are the three that you really can't have 100% single finish of because we need to have those to make the regular product. But the blend itself can be modified somewhat. And when you get the ones that did a 40-40-20, like 40% Sauterne, 40% Madeira, and 20% 20, the port is very dominant. And people really love that.
I like this a lot.
So it's
significantly different than the other ones for sure.
I make the joke all the time. It's our whiskey that I have to hide from my wife, right? I sold wine for 15 years, so the lower proof, the nuances of these individual barrels and their marriage together so beautifully is definitely one of my favorite whiskeys. It was probably outside of 10-year being what 10-year was and putting us on the map and putting Dave, more importantly, once again on the map after leaving Makers, was one of his proudest accomplishments. The day that I found out that, and if anybody doesn't know, he did pass in November of 18. The day I got that phone call, that's the bottle that I grabbed. So it's a special whiskey to me, because it was a special whiskey to Dave. Piggyback was his dream. That's why it's such a cool whiskey to talk about. And we can get to that later about all the little Easter eggs on the label that are an homage to Dave. But
okay, cool.
The 12 years a really, really special whiskey. And like I said, the bespoke blends that you allow, you get 250 mLs of each finish, a graduated cylinder, and some empty bottles, and some lessons, right? Like, hey, this is how you do this. And then you get to kind of play mad scientist. If you guys watch the Flaviar blending, pretty much what Pete was doing and saying, all right, this is how we go about this. We're going to break down this blend, play with it this way, think about it this way. You only have a certain amount of juice to play with, so let's be smart here. Is really how you do the bespoke blending. So it's a really cool, fun thing. And I know you guys are eating some bacon on the side. The first time when we did it, the one that you'll find at Specs that's a little bit different is one that I actually did. and we sat down and had Sauterne, we had Madeira, we had port, and we had things to go with each one of those. So we were actually drinking and kind of noshing a little bit as we were going along with it, and it makes for one of the coolest experiences if you get a chance to build your own bespoke blend.
That's awesome.
Of course, it's really cool to get the single finishes because they're just obscure and weird and cool and fun. And
sure,
I've got a Amarone, I've got a Peruvian rum here from Chris Shepard and Morgan Weber from Houston. This is their Peruvian rum cask.
Very cool. Now, the other one you said, what is the was it Amarone? What is that? Is that a type of wine or what is that?
It is. It's probably the most most is relative, right?
It's a really unique wine out of Italy.
One of the most unique wines out of Italy. And what makes it really unique is roughly 18 different varietals. And what they are is they rolled out onto bamboo shoots and they're dried in the sun to actually resonate. And so the sugars kind of really, really become intense. And so therefore it's made like no other wine on earth. And so it's got a very chewy, intense, leather, soft, elegant, acidic, but also subtle. So if you ever see Amarone, if you're ever in Italy, my go-to joke is, we just honeymooned there last year. Hopefully we can go back sometime soon. But if you're ever at a nice restaurant and the waiter in Italy is giving you the order the Amarone, and he turns right around because you've probably bought one of the most expensive bottles on the wine list, and you've gained his respect. You can speak English, and he will not scoff at you. So, fun little Italian eating trick when you're in Italy, that's for sure. So,
did not know. That's very cool. I'll have to look, see if I can find a bottle of that wine. Check that out, see what that even tastes like. Never heard of it.
I'll point you in the right direction, good sir.
Perfect, good. Because you know me, I always want to find whatever wine it's finished, and I want to find those wines and try them. And
I have a couple of them. I have a couple of them on my wine list.
Yes.
They're quite delicious.
Awesome. If you don't know, Will's a wine sommelier. That's his real job. So
cool. I certified some, and I was doing that for years and years, and so this is why it's fun to talk about these wine finishes and talk about the whiskey. It's a little bit, believe it or not, I'm sure you can attest, Will, it's a little easier to kind of talk about whiskey and tastings than it can be about vintage to vintage with wines. So, and producer to producer. So
yeah,
but it's still
absolutely
fun.
Absolutely. And yeah.
Now, does Spec have a pick of that one, or is that just something you specially have?
The Amarone?
Yes.
That was actually sold to a restaurant group, Dots and Eastside and Denton. So Dots is in Deep Ellum.
Okay.
And Eastside. Now Pogos has been a guy that's pulled through a lot of things from time to time because everything has to go through a retailer anyway. So sometimes they'll put some things on the shelf that are in the area and also deliver to some of the bars just to kind of streamline it, make it a little easier.
Perfect.
So you can sometimes find it.
Things
that have been pulled through at Pogos and Lakewood Medallion from time to time.
Okay. Check those places out. We know both those stores.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, more things to look forward to that I didn't even know existed. Even better.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to talk about you said there's a bunch of stuff about Dave from the bottle. You want to talk about that right now? It sounds like something cool we should talk about.
Yeah.
Different things that are odes to him.
So if you look at the bottle of the Piggyback, right?
Okay.
So like I said before, Piggyback was really Dave's dream. It was to have a everyday workable rye whiskey for bartenders, but also
with a super fancy top.
You like that? That's my my speed pour.
That's awesome. I love it.
That's
cool.
totally awesome.
It also works. Watch.
Nice.
Okay, I just want one of those.
Is that something you install on your website?
Don't worry. When the POS warehouse goes back to work and they can ship things out, I'll make sure and get some too.
Pretty
awesome.
please.
Yeah.
Those are cool. That's really cool.
So if you
Use it
notice the
every
difference
time.
between
Yeah, we definitely need one of those in our lives.
yeah. Oh man, when we first showed these off, it was in Florida last year. It was one of the first markets that we did a sales meeting in with the distributor, and our brand manager standing next to me, and we were talking, and every rep came up and goes, "Where can I get that? Where can I get that?" And I just looked at her and I go, "How many of these did you order?" And she goes, I go, "You need to triple it." And
Yeah, not enough. You need way more because that's
and
awesome.
when we ship them out, they come in the 3 because you're not doing POS right, you're not doing point of sale right if it's not getting stolen, right?
Yeah.
So the first one gets stolen,
Always
goes on the bottle, and the third one hopefully goes in a drawer or
back up.
sort of competition with it. But if you've ever looked at the label of Whistlepig and looked at the pig, it's Winston Churchill as a pig, right?
Really?
So top hat, bow tie. In the
That's
old
cool.
bottlings, which you have plenty of old bottlings there.
Yes, I have lots of it.
You will you will see him smoking. He's since quit smoking. Good for him. It's very important. Health is very important, and obviously right now it's very important to not be smoking. But if you look at the Piggyback label, you'll actually see Dave as a pig. So
Okay.
Dave, as I'm always in my flat bill, Dave was always in his Stetson hat. So this is Dave as a pig, iconicized on the front of the label.
Very cool.
You'll also notice the proof. So 96.56 proof, right? Dave was born in 1956. So when we were in a meeting years ago before launching, I said, "Hey, ask TTB. Maybe they'll say yes." They hadn't heard that before. Therefore, they passed it. We put it on. So another cool homage to him. On the side label here, you'll notice year of birth and year of death. So you've got 1956 and 2018.
Okay.
And a little quote from Dave on the back here: "The piggyback ride you all deserve."
Yeah.
So what you'll also notice is you can hold it in your hand, as you easily saw. A pour spout fits in it, which does not fit in any of our other bottles. Very, very, very key things when you're looking at a cocktail or in this, premium whiskey category, which really we had never really been in before. So when you can buy something that is 6 years old, 100% rye at 96.56 proof for $50, between $40 and $50, depending on what retailer you're at, it's a category we had never entered before. And luckily, because of our lineage with Jeff, our CEO, and Dave being Dave, we have enough of this to sell with confidence, just like we do with now 10-year, 12-year, and 15. Prior to about a year and a half, 2 years ago, 12-year and 15 were kind of on pitch counts, and now they're readily available. That's why we can do the single finishes. We can do the 15-year barrels. So it opened a lot of doors for us whenever some of the whiskey that we had procured and cornered the market to purchase and source started to really come of age.
That's very cool.
Yes.
But yeah, Piggyback's really the game changer for our brand. Believe it or not, I know everybody on here has heard of Whistlepig, but really when you look at it, we're still a sub 100,000 case brand, and we're a small guy in the big picture. And This is the thing that can bring a lot of people and introduce them to our brand. So, if you don't see it at a retailer, ask for it. If you've never had it, give it a whirl. If you like all of our other SKUs, you'll probably enjoy that just as much. It's a very versatile whiskey and cocktails, and really fun to sip and drink. And, like I said, just pretty much do what you want with it. Not that you can't do that with any of the other whiskeys. It's just most people aren't doing fancy things with $500 or $125 or $250 bottles. So
That's true. I will not be making cocktails with those.
Yeah,
I assure you.
Very true.
Is that what you want to pour next? Is the Piggyback?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then I guess, do you want to make the Old Pal now, or you want to make it later?
I can suffer through making an Old Pal real quick. I
Okay.
don't have any of the garnishes, but I do have all the other components.
Yeah. We'll skip the fancy little garnishes. That's fine by me because I probably don't have them either. So
let me just get a little bit of ice for my fancy beaker here.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Take 2 seconds.
I can go get ice.
All right. Let's get off my children and bring ice.
Oh, we don't have the stuff to make it.
You probably, unless you have Campari and vermouth.
I don't have Campari or vermouth.
Okay, then I guess not.
Those
Okay, hold
not
on.
things I keep in my house.
I failed to put that in the kit this evening. I'm sorry.
I'm quite all right without it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, how many mixed
Violet,
drinks
can
do
you
we
get Daddy
actually
ice? Basically 0. Can you get Daddy a little ice, please? That's white out. I don't want to drink that. Okay.
You're trying to poison him.
better than bleach?
Get out all my fun little cocktail tools to make some stuff. So Campari, which everybody knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Your bitter.
Oh.
I just pulled it out of the fridge, and you can see that it's sweaty, right?
All right. So that's dry vermouth you're using?
Dry vermouth. So really what you've got here is just a spiff on a Boulevardier. Instead of using sweet vermouth, you're using dry vermouth, right? So
Okay.
we're going to put in 1.5 ounces of Piggyback.
Okay.
Then we're going to put in 3/4 of an ounce of Campari.
Okay.
The Campari is obviously there, like I said before, for the bittering agent, just like you would have in a Boulevardier. I like Dolan. I like Dolan because they come in 375s and they fit in the fridge a lot easier because you should be keeping your vermouth in the fridge. Will, I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yes, I can.
Somebody came out with a brilliant ad campaign in the last couple of months of keychains that say, please put your vermouth in the fridge. And one of my buddies came over a couple weeks ago and gave me one, and I use it. So I've got my fancy little stirrer here. I collect a lot of vintage barware, but you notice I'm married to a physics teacher, so I'm just using a beaker. Because science.
Well washed beforehand.
Because science.
Sorry, my kid was screaming. How much vermouth do I put in this?
3/4 of an ounce.
Okay.
So 1.5 of whiskey, 3/4 of an ounce of vermouth, 3/4 of an ounce of Campari.
Perfect.
And all you're going to do is just use your little Boston strainer.
Whoo. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And just like you would with a Boulevardier, in most cases, you can have it up, you can have it on the rocks. I'm obviously having it in a rocks glass, but in an up form. Some people like a lemon, some people like an orange. So whether you want that, strict kind of acid kick or you want a little bit sweeter, you don't necessarily need to do anything with fire or flare. You just kind of want to have a little bit of that citrus and zing for your cocktail. So it'll look pretty much just like you would a Boulevardier. Like I said, it's just giving more of that dry flavoring into the cocktail instead of the sweet vermouth that sometimes gives that Campari a mute. This, I find, the Old Pal really kind of amplifies it a little bit more. And if you're like I am, I like things more bitter, savory. And this was also one of Dave's favorite cocktails, so therefore it's a big one for us to always kind of be drinking. And it's a fun play on, drinking Old Pals with Old Pals,
Yeah. I'm glad you gave me a use for Campari finally, because I've had it forever and I didn't really know what to do with it besides Negroni, but that's about it. So it's like, well, now there's another use for it. So perfect.
Yeah. Man, it's been a minute since I've had one of those. It's so good.
That is good.
Now I'm a little jealous.
Alrighty. So we even got a cocktail into the episode tonight, which I don't think we've ever actually had a cocktail on this show before. So cool.
Not on this one. We handle all that over on Ladies' Night.
This is true.
See, you hit a mallet, and I normally have a little coupe glass for my Zing, my Zoom meetings, and so when people ask a good question or have a good zinger, I do a little ting.
It's funny.
No, that's actually pretty tasty. I actually like that. Just shocking, to be real honest.
Yeah.
What's the proof on the piggyback one more time? Sorry, I have to relabel things when they come into my house.
96.56.
What?
So think 6 year,
One more piece, and that's it.
96, and then
This is
56 being Dave's birth year.
From Will. I'll
We
go.
like playing with numbers if you haven't.
No more.
been able
You've heard
to
it too.
pick up.
That's your
So
second.
they come into my house with these like just barely, you can't, just kind of scribbles of, can't really see anything at all. So I have to, relabel things with big writing that you can actually read. And
Hey man, as long as you're living that painter tape life, that's all that matters.
that's right.
There's no other way.
It's a lovely thing.
I have so many
Yes.
bottles of cocktails that were left over from events that I've put in empty bottles and just labeled with painter tape. And I have literally friends that don't even, they bypass my bar, they bypass the wine fridge, they bypass everything to go straight to that thing in the kitchen where they know that the labeled already batched cocktails are. It's crazy, but
That's funny.
because I'm always, obviously I live in a donut shop, so we're always playing around with stuff.
Sure.
And, I've taken some of the 10-year before and soaked them in gummy bears and then strained them out and then put them back in the bottle. And it's like, whoa. And then you start
That's
playing
awesome.
around with that and cocktails. And then, it can get weird in a hurry, right? So, especially when you got 6 or 7 years of R&D under your belt, you start thinking of a bunch of weird, fun stuff to come up with. And then you go to a whiskey dinner somewhere and somebody does something really cool with something and you go, how'd you do that? And of course they want to tell you all about it. And then the next thing you know, I'm sitting around, steeping Chinar with our Boss Hog coffee and finishing it in a used mezcal barrel.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
It's weird,
Indeed.
but it's,
I probably like that though. Sounds tasty. I do like. Sounds good.
yeah.
Nice smoky cocktail at that point.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so have you guys ever finished anything in like an Ardbeg or a Lefroy cask at all? You ever done anything like that, or in the future maybe?
The only Pete we hang out with is our master distiller or our master blender. That's actually a joke I just came up with on the fly because you just asked me that. But it's not really something we've played around with. If you look at Boss Hog 3, it was a used hogshead, recharged used hogshead.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a Scotch influenced Boss Hog, and it was the first Boss Hog that was ever finished. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all finished. 1 and 2 were not. 2 was the first time we rebranded it with the Flying Pig. That was the Spirit of Mortimer.
Mhm.
But that's the most that we've ever done with that because, the same reason why we don't really and haven't really gotten into a lot of weeded finishes as well, because it takes away from a lot of the rye spice and what makes Whistlepig. So that's more of the reason why we've not played with that. Now, does that mean that we won't?
As a Pete lover, please do.
No, you're good where you are.
That's what I want to know because I love Pete. So
Stick with the wine finishes. We're good.
mezcal finish is fine too. They'll be nice and smoky either way.
I'm sure there will be some 12-year single finishes that will find their ways into some peaty Scotch casks at some point.
Yes, please.
We're just getting so many different things dropped off on the farm. And it's really fun to see how it's all progressed. When we first got the first couple reefers in of all these different barrels, all these heads had been, all the labels have been ripped off. We didn't know what and who it was from. And now that it's caught fire like it has,
Yeah.
oh, they're not taking it off anymore. They went like, oh, you can tell people you're using our barrels, right? So
Yeah, they want their name on that too.
yeah.
That's funny.
Hey, the best form of flattery, right?
Say blame them. I mean,
it's great. It's great. So, do we want to, I guess, roll into what would we be talking about next? 15 year?
Yeah, let's do 15. That sounds good.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. So I got an old. This one's I think it's probably about 3-4 years old. This 15 year.
Well, I got the same label too because
Perfect.
It's not like I go sample and pull bottles of 15 all that often. Even though
I didn't figure, unfortunately, right?
I've got to get some of these single barrels.
Is that 15?
Yeah, I've seen that new 15-year single barrel. That's not a pick, just a regular. I guess is all the 15-year going to be single barrels now? No. So that you'll find both on the shelf.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the proof on it?
92. So 46 is probably what I put on your label.
Yeah. We're just trying to decipher what this label says.
I'll just look for one that says 1.5 on it. It's probably the safest bet.
It kind of looks like a
5. It's sort of. It also looks like a 3.
Just kind of looks like a smudge.
Yeah, that could be too. We got this cool pewter top that, as Rex says, you can kill a dog with this thing. So it is a beautiful thing. I really like the weight of these. I wish all corks were like that, but I know that's expensive, obviously, to make them that way. Not the cheapest way to make it.
It's not the cheapest enclosure.
What cool is that?
But great story about if you look actually right here on this, that is the sign for Danforth Pewter. So once again, we're doing our best being in Vermont to promote as many small family-owned businesses as possible. Our pewter, Danforth Pewter, is actually a 100-plus-year-old small family-owned pewter company based in Middlebury, Vermont.
Very cool.
30 minutes away. So really cool that all the Boss Hog toppers are from Danforth. 15-year toppers are also from Danforth. AO Glass makes the topper for 18-year, which we can talk about here shortly.
Absolutely.
But, we're once again, I've made the joke a million times that we get our glass from Italy and our labels from Mexico, but we do everything else we can in-house and on the farm and in the area. But they just do those things a little bit better, right? Or cost effectively. We put our money where the right thing should be. But yeah, when you look at 12-year being 86 proof, all the single finish marriage into it, or the single finish, by itself, or any bespoke blend, it's very elegant in style. It's very feminine in style. The residual sugars there. 15-year was really created for the people that love 10-year and love the barrel picks and want more of that, right? So it's in retrospect very much a masculine whiskey. It's for me. I crave 15-year when I'm out sitting on a porch smoking cigars. It's a food whiskey, right?
It's delicious.
It's a big boy. So it's a 100% rye, finished for 6 months in our own Vermont oak, right? With a heavy number 4 char, a custom toast. Probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had by working for Whistlepig is when we went to Independent Staves, ISC. The small, Will, you probably know ISC or heard of them. I mean, they make wine barrels and whiskey barrels for everybody.
Yeah,
they're the largest independent stave company in cooperage in the world. They've got them from Barossa to Bordeaux to Napa to Ohio, and their home base is in Missouri. And we actually flew into St. Louis. We drove down to the mill. We saw all that. We went down to the cooperage, which is literally right there across the street from the family's home where they entertain. Had a family meal with all of them. Dave being Dave had all these different insights into things, and it was probably, like I said, I've seen so many of these videos about how they make barrels and how they do this and how they do that, and then when you get to see it firsthand, but you have to take your literally your phone and put it into a bin because none of this is getting out. They're a privately held company. They got 25 full-time engineers that are there to design all the things that make them. it was so rad to see. And the mill, there's
Bet.
zero waste. My favorite part was probably the guy that sits there and cuts down the logs, and he's sitting there in a chair like you would think a video game, and he's got 2 joysticks, and he's lining up, right, the crosshairs on these lasers for these logs, and he's sitting there and he hits these buttons like, and it just shoots through this way and this way at the same time. And I'm like, how long you got to work here to have that job?
For
That
real.
awesome. I want to do
I've been
that.
playing RPG for like so long. I could totally do it. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go sign up for that class. Where do I shoot logs?
Yes.
Wood? That sounds awesome with lasers and wood. That sounds great.
I'm good with the crosshairs.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. The season yard was there. Everything waste wise they make into the mulch that you put into your gardens.
All right, cool.
You name it. There's zero waste at the mill. And then you go over the cooperage, and they've got all these computers that run all the drips off the toast. It's just it's incredible to see. So it's a custom toast, meaning that we also toasted the heads. So we got as many of those vanillins and conjures to come to the surface, and then we got a heavy number 4 char. So it's finished in those for 6 months. The really cool thing is that once again we were the first to ever do this with Vermont oak, and people are always like, "Well, Vermont oak, describe the difference between Vermont oak and any other oak, right?" Well, look at it this way: the growing season in Vermont is much smaller, right? So a lot of these trees that make your regular whiskey barrels are probably in the neighborhood between 40 and 60 years old. And they come from, Arkansas, Missouri, Ohio, all through the Midwest for the most part. And then Vermont, we got a lot of trees, but only 4% of them are white oak. And see, since the growing season is so short that the rings are much tighter, the trees are much older. So you're getting on average probably an 80-year-old tree. But, Will, once again, to kind of correlate wine into it, you're getting more French oak than you are American oak, right? It's
right. Tighter rings, you get more. You have more of that influence.
Yeah. So it only needs 6 months or 6 months to sit in that to influence it. Sometimes it's a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on the time of year. But for the most part, it's to embark that and elevate that flavor profile of that 15-year juice to really, really give it that oomph and that, rye spice and that chewy, masculine flavoring. So
is it first fill for the most part on these?
Yeah, we will reuse them one other time. But for the most part, that's it. We want to make sure that we're being as consistent as possible with it. So therefore, we don't want to, we're not looking at the long-term play with it. And the cool thing also is that keep in mind for every tree that we cut down either on our farm or in the area, we plant 50 more. Right?
That's awesome.
Wow. That's awesome.
I like that.
That's a good ratio. I like that.
It's good, right?
That seems fair. I think that
for real.
I think that seems fair. We're gonna cut down one and plant 50. That's
by the time you're done, you have a whole damn forest.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we pretty much do on the farm. If you look at what's not planted, it's not because
it's forest.
We haven't yet. It's because a lot of the time it's maple trees and other things that are there. So when you look at the sugar shack on our farm, it's right there next to it is where the little incubator spot is for all the trees. So they sit there for a little bit of time. Then we replant them. Then we plant more, and then it's a continuous project.
Yeah, I know Robot Scott had a question here a second ago about this. Where is it?
Whistlepig maple syrup.
Yes. Does that exist?
It does.
Is it? Can you buy it?
Except it's not for sale.
That's what I thought I heard. It wasn't for sale.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's kind of it's got its own legs. We've used it a lot for cocktail features. We do it a lot in pairing dinners when we do those things. Dude Sweet makes a truffle called When Pigs Fly, and it's got 10-year and the syrup in it.
Nice.
So
Sounds
we use it
great.
for fun things.
I like to do fun things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to do a pairing here in the next couple of weeks with Dude Sweet, and it's going to be a whiskey and, it'll be some cocktails with Piggyback and whatnot, and some chocolate pairings. So keep an eye out for that for any of you locals in the DFW Metroplex. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yes.
So,
send us info on that. That sounds awesome.
yeah.
We got my Whiskey Dens in here. This is Pat. So let everybody know if you guys haven't checked out my Whiskey Dens. It's an awesome show. They had the Blonde Brothers on earlier tonight, so that's another cool company. Also, Larry's in here, who is Larry's Bar that Bobby and Sam always talk about. So when everybody reopens, you guys are going to go over to Larry's Bar. Check that out. But Larry's a cool dude, and so everybody to support him. So I guess they're saying July 1st. Oh gosh. Well, Larry, I hope it's before that. That would be that's crazy. All right. Well,
Bars are just a whole nother beast, though.
see, we have the awesome home bar, so we're all good. Yeah. So John wants to know when and where, as far as the thing we were just talking about that's local. You want to talk a little more about that since he's local?
What's that?
The event you were just talking about that's in a couple of weeks.
The fun things.
Yeah.
He wants to know when and where.
It is TBD at this point. I actually just got off the phone with Catherine, the owner of Dude Sweet, today, and we were talking about it. We're developing a featured cocktail that she literally gave us some sorghum bitters. She gave us some mulberry she locally picked and made into like a syrup that we're going to play with. So I will tell you this. For the first 12 people that sign up for it, I do have syrup for those people. So I've given her 12 bottles that have 2.5 ounces of the syrup in it, so you can make your maple old fashioned in bottle for the actual pairing. So that's really cool and fun. But we haven't set a date just yet.
Okay.
Look on my Instagram or just look for it on Dude Sweet's Instagram. It'll be out there for sure. We'll kind of be blasting it out sooner rather than later. But I know that we'll probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 75 people that are interested. Catherine and I have known each other for a long time, and we do Meat Fight together. It's a charity for MS research.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's going to be a Meat Fight this year, but we're doing everything we can to support them in this time, because large gatherings, I don't really know if those are going to November. But yeah, she's been a great partner and a great friend, and helped my wife with her sourdough starter in the last week or two, so she can start making bread so that I can start gaining more weight while we're sitting around. Pretty awesome.
I feel you. I get it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That
sounds awesome.
Workout muscles are getting good, but this keeps growing too. And her belly and my belly, I think, are having a competition.
That's funny.
Yeah, just keep an eye out for that. It'll be a maple old fashioned developed cocktail, which you'll get in the kit. And then, spoiler alert, the third cocktail is basically a Boilermaker, where it's just get your whiskey and get your beer, and let's have a drink. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
Just send us an email on that. I want to sign up for that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
My wife also loves Whistlepig, so she likes to eat Whistlepig. And when we have grilled cheese and pickles, it's one of her favorite meals. It goes really well together, we find. So we got a question from Ben here. He wants to know if there's any future plans on having a Whistlepig dinner for a Crusader event like McAllen Night. I don't know. That's up to Doug. We could always do something like that.
You know, my schedule's kind of cleared up. So my wife and I have been together for 5 years, and she's like, "You've never been home this long." And I'm like, "I've never seen the seasons change."
She's like, "You can leave now."
I mean, I'm a 100 flight a year guy, right? So me being home for 60 plus days is like a solar eclipse. It doesn't come off. I was talking to somebody today, and I said, I think it's been a decade since I've been home for 2 months straight.
Crap. Wow.
Yeah.
So your wife's like, "Can you leave now? That'd be great."
Oh, no, I go in the other room. Don't worry.
There's rooms in the house.
I'm gonna go for
Yeah, I'm glad my wife goes to work every day because I think it would end poorly otherwise. Because she works at a hospital, so she has no choice in this matter. She's like, I don't think we could do this together all the time. It's a good thing I leave every day.
I'm so thankful that I can close the door on my office and just tune out him and our 6-year-old and just turn up whatever I'm watching or music or whatever and just tune him out and do my work. Or else we would probably kill each other.
It's a good chance at this point. You never know.
I don't know. We've known each other for like 25, 26 years, so we've made it this far.
I assume we're moving on to Farmstock next.
Do you want to talk about Farmstock or 18? Your choice, Doug. Which one would you prefer to talk
Do
about?
you have an 18? I didn't see an 18.
I forgot to give it to you because I only have a tiny amount, and I put it out to give to you, and I forgot.
That's fair.
I have this little amount, but it'll work for this evening.
That makes me feel any better. That's how much I have of my.
Yeah, so we're about the same. Perfect.
So, 18 year came out this last year. It was the first of its kind. As you'll notice, the bottle is a completely different shape.
Yes.
Different look, completely. Like I said before, the glass topper here. Keep doing that. Will change every year. We've got one more release of this actual topper coming out for Father's Day that should be landing in Texas and across the U.S. But once again, every time we release something new and different, it's to kind of push the envelope, do something that no one's ever seen before, but also bring in maybe a different consumer base that we had never really touched before. We alluded to Pete. We alluded to the Hog's Head with Boss Hog 3. Just think of, 18 year kind of being a gateway for Scotch drinkers to come over to the rye world, as we say. So what you've got is just like 15, it's a 92 proof bottled rye, 79% of it being straight rye, 15% being malted rye, and 6% being malted barley. So very, very, very different. If you've had it before, I think it's probably one of the smoothest and or, quote unquote, scariest whiskeys we've ever released. I always say that every time we release a whiskey, I grab a bottle and I sit down with it and get to know it. And I got to know that one really well.
I see that. You did a good job with that one.
Did a good job. And there's no backup. So can't even go get any more. But think of it this way. It's about the fourth of the production of Boss Hog. It's cheaper than Boss Hog. So it's more harder to find, but a little bit less in cost. Delicious, gorgeous, fun sipping whiskey. Once again, not the playful maybe whiskey. You can do what you want with it once you get it into your hands, of course.
Sure.
I've heard all the funny stories and I've had all the funny things, believe it. But it's a very, very, very special and unique whiskey.
Approximate price point?
About $400, somewhere around there.
Okay. So not a lot less than the Boss Hog.
About $100. Still $100 less. So King Jack wants to know will the topper be released on the website? It's awesome.
It is awesome. It will not be, unfortunately. They are handmade from like 19th century glass molds from a very small producer. Therefore, we make them almost to order for how many bottles of whiskey we know we need to produce to sell. And while we know that they are going to be cool and fun and collectible, we're not at that level of production for anything that we do really to kind of replicate and sell secondary by themselves. I get the request every year.
Well, it's a very simple problem. Just buy a bottle.
So,
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, just buy a bottle. Your problem's solved. Now you have a topper.
Yeah,
it's a very simple solution. It'll cost you $400, but from what I'm tasting, clearly worth it. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I can thank Jeremy Burns was the one that supplied the sample this, but thanks, Jeremy. I want to appreciate that.
This is the package for 18 years as well. So
that's a very cool package. Oh, it's fancy. Oh, so the topper's in that little side part there. That's cool. Now, with the topper in it, is it corked, that topper that's glass, or is it just a solid glass topper?
So it comes with the cork topper that you saw in the box there, and then this is set off to the side in that little chute.
Okay.
Right? So it's there for obvious decoration. If you're leaving it for over amount of time, you'd want to make sure and put the cork topper back in.
Okay, that was my next question. Is if I get one, do I need to put the cork back in it? So the answer is yes.
I would, just because.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I want the whiskey to be safe because I want to enjoy it. Pretty look at when it's empty, but I want to enjoy the whiskey while it's in there.
I mean, if your friends are coming over, your friends that are coming over are going to look at the bottle.
Oh, yeah.
You can put it on and
definitely
put the cork topper back in when they leave. Or maybe you don't want to do that because you don't want to attract attention to the bottle and you want to drink it all yourself. You know your friends better than I know your friends.
Yeah, Matt likes.
They like the pretty things. I like to share. They like the pretty things. You'll see the things we share that of all the whiskeys that are gone the most of these, it's all the Boss Hogs.
Yeah.
So,
what's been your favorite Boss Hog release so far?
Oh, the Black Prince, and then the Samurai Scientist from this past year.
Samesies.
Yeah, the Black Prince is probably my favorite rye ever, and I've tried a lot of ryes. I mean, the only thing that's even come close, besides that Samurai Scientist, which are probably 2 or 3, is that Booker's rye. But other than that, nothing else has touched it. Not even close. It is a freaking magical journey. We opened it up at the liquor store when I bought it. We're like, what is this? What ungodly thing has this come from? This is unbelievable. So, yeah, the liquor store manager was very, very happy I opened that with him. So,
is that William?
Of course.
Yeah, that was William.
I remember specifically where I was at when someone on the distillery called me to tell me that we had something on our hands that was going to change the way that people perceived our company. And, it really, really is a incredible and unique whiskey. And, I'm glad to hear that you said the Black Prince and then the Samurai Scientist, because I really believe Samurai Scientist is so unique and different and unlike anything that we've ever done, just like every Boss Hog is, that it's back in that same conversation.
Absolutely.
It's got that acid. I mean, Will, you're shaking your head. I mean, it's a wine drinkers. It's a nerdy whiskey guy, girl.
It's so meaty, too. It's just, I can't wait to get to that one this evening. We'll get to them all.
Let's get there. Come on, Farmstock. Let's go. We got an empty glass here. Let's move it, people. Come on.
Farmstock, last edition, Rye Crop 003. If you can get your hands on it, get it going.
We've got all 3 Farmstock, so we can talk about all 3.
So the Farmstock was, as we started the company, it was always to be a grain to bottle distillery. Obviously, it's grown so fast and so furious, and we're so fortunate that I don't believe we'll ever be able to kind of supplement one of our whiskey releases with our own rye. So it was always to be an experimental whiskey, and yes, the transparency that we've put.
Yeah, this is really cool. You guys do this.
It's an important thing for what we were trying to do, and I don't have a 2, but I do have a 1.
Yeah, I got 1, 2, and 3, so we're all good.
So when you look on the back of the label, you'll notice that we, as Matt was just showing, we put what percentage, where it's from, where it was produced, what bonds, what wood was used, and so on and so forth. And we wanted to have that transparency because, of course, I remember in 2013, 2014, before people knew more about what sourcing meant. And, Will, I'm sure you know about wine sourcing. I mean, when people were up in uproar about whiskey sourcing, I was like, wait a minute, everybody's been doing this forever in wine. Why is everybody being so upset?
Because they weren't transparent.
We wanted to be as transparent as possible, and we wanted to make sure that everybody knew what exactly was going in that bottle. So the first release was 1-year whiskey. The second release was 2-year whiskey. The third release was 3-year whiskey. And the third release that you currently can find at the stores has actually 52% rye grown on our farm, distilled on our property, aged in oak from our farm, and diluted with water from our farm, as all whiskeys are. So triple terroir, but quad terroir, if you really want to call it that, with the water being the extra element there as well. So it's really fun. It's very unique. Limited time offering kind of whiskey. Obviously, you guys have done your due diligence to kind of keep up with the different releases. And there is going to be plenty of Farmstock 3 still readily available probably for the next 2 or 3 months. And then after that, you should see Homestock around. Hopefully, I was told today, the hopeful date is mid-June in Texas.
Okay, good. Because then we'll have to have that for sure.
What are you doing? Are you pouring 2 as well, Matt?
So I'm going to pour 1, 2, and 3 of the Homestock, and then I guess you can tell us the differences between all 3. That would be awesome.
Well, I just kind of went through that a little bit.
Well, each one's a little bit.
Boss Hog. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Drink the Boss Hog.
So the way that I would kind of describe 1, 2, and 3, obviously 1 having the 1-year whiskey at 20%, it's a very soft and lighter introduction to our brand and to Farmstock. And 2 was a blend of ryes, straight ryes. So when 1 had a 1-year whiskey in it, it was not straight rye whiskey or a blended straight. So when we got to 2, it was a completely different animal. I thought it offered a lot more depth than 1 did, where 1 was very soft and light and almost got that eau de vie kind of character to it, very bright and in your face, but very, very lighter in style. 2, having the sources from Indiana and Canada and our farm was really cool. We did do some blendings with 2, which was really fun. And then same with 3, but more importantly, 3 being the 52% of it being 3-year juice from our farm. We didn't want to do the 51 because why would we do that when we can, move the needle 1 more percent and go over the top. So I think that the balance in 2 really was a great whiskey, and then 3 just kind of really kicked it up a notch, which was a blend almost of 1 and 2. If you really look at the fact that there's so much of our juice in the third, but it's a 3-year juice, so it's almost like a mature one. But once again, I mean, tasting profiles are all very subjective. And
it's very cool though.
Yeah, I get a lot more of the dill on the nose on the 1 than I do on the 2 or 3.
Same.
Yep.
The one is basically all dill.
Yeah.
The 2's got that minty, wonderful spearminty. Yeah.
I like the 3 the best. The 3 to me has the most depth and complexity of them.
Yep. 3's, yeah.
2,
that's what I thought as I cracked them all. That was what I thought too. So
yeah, the 3 has a lot more of the peppery.
Because every year when they came out, I crack the date, I got it, and then I stick it away and say, now I got to compare. They are delicious. That's for sure.
Delicious.
Mm-hmm.
I have to call somebody and make sure that they put that in the dictionary.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good whiskey term.
Yeah. Delicious. It's usually what it is after you've had quite a few.
That's right.
It could be that too, but it's not the case tonight.
I like the nose on the 2 better, but I like the palate on 3 better.
So 3 is the most Vermont. You said what, 52% of it? It's pretty amazing. It's delicious though. So do you guys have any 100% that's Vermont whiskey at all, or that's something you guys ever have tried or consider releasing at any point?
We will.
Very cool. That'll be exciting to try that.
That's my short answer.
Okay.
I mean, keep in
Coach
mind.
has to age 10 years.
So
that'll be cool though. Yeah, interesting to compare one of your ones that's just Canada to just Vermont, just for comparison reasons. It'd be interesting to try that. Just to see the different terroir of both regions.
Oh, for sure. And the reason why you get a lot more of that dill in 2 and none in 1 and 3 is because that's the only one that's got some MGP juice in it, which is really kind of fun. So when you look at the fact that you get a lot more of that depth in 3, it's because you're getting 52% from our farm, but it's 3-year juice. It's very pure and clean and got great depth because it's so pure. But then you've got 6-year and 10-year Canadian juice in there. And that's where you're getting that elevated spice, right? It really drives up that spice level. So
yeah, that black pepper ding.
Makes sense.
Yep.
So it's the MGP rye that's the straight pickle.
That's it. That's
that pickle juice rye.
Yep.
Interesting.
I tell you what, when we did the review, the piggyback, if you put some water in it, boy,
It's
does
straight pickle.
that dill note accentuates to the degree. It's pretty insane.
Which is funny because it's not MGP juice, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I as an ex-wine guy too, I look at different days. I get different things from the whiskeys.
Oh,
There's certain days from the 12-year, I put my nose in it and I get just tons of, tea, black tea, right? And then there's certain days that I get different nuances. So it's fun to drink them differently and different styles on different days with different things and different people and climates. And, it's like a mood ring in your glass, right?
Yeah.
for real. Yeah, because I like Piggyback by itself, but yeah, the day we reviewed it, it happened to be it was like. Have you had that Martin House
Pickle beer?
You tried that at all?
I have.
Okay, it was like that almost with the water.
Wow.
Big time. Yeah. And we didn't mention this earlier, but everybody in the chat knows William and I aren't huge rye fans because of the pickle note. But not a lot of these have had that overpowering dill note.
No. And it's really with the piggyback, it's only when you add the water does that note dial up to 11. Before that, it's really just kind of subdued. What we find is that older ryes tend to find a more minty note versus younger ryes that tend to find a more dill note. So I don't know if that's something that you've come across in your journey as well, but that's what we have found in our journey so far.
We definitely enjoy older ryes if we're going to reach for a rye.
Well, that's good. That's why I'm here. Yeah, no, I've found a lot of that as well. And I've also, like I said, found that a lot of dill will come out of some MGP ryes. So, I mean, I've sat there on podcasts doing barrel selections, and people have been like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting so much of this one thing," and it's true. I mean, different days, different samples.
How far down the bottle is. Yep.
Yeah.
Oxidation makes a difference. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I tend to reach for the minty. I like the minty ryes.
If we're going to go down that path, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like this 2 and 3 though.
I do too. Both the 2 and the 3 are of the Farmstock are really, really spectacular.
Yeah, the one's just too much dill for me. Hello, cat. What's right?
Bacon Kitty.
Not so
You
much.
rye.
He likes the smell of whiskey, but he'd prefer to eat the bacon.
I can't really say I blame him as far as being a cat. That probably makes logical sense.
Yeah.
All right. You want to move on to the Boss Hogs?
Yes. I mean, sorry. It's rude.
That's rude.
All right, I'm going to get some clean glasses for this because they're Boss Hog.
Yeah, so we're busy cleaning now.
Rinse out the glass.
Well, because I was, as I said before, so much of a fan of 12-year. The only one that I really have open at my house is Spirit of Mauve. Calvados finished. And for those of you, once again, watching in Texas, I was the guy that was in charge of the Central region for about 3 years. So you'll notice if you're ever traveling or ever looking for Boss Hog and older bottlings, and you see the different proofs and different barrels, that you'll notice that, see that number right there?
Uh-huh.
120.2. I knew every time that the email was going to come out for the proofs that were available for Boss Hog, and we're signing up for Texas to get the 120.2 or the highest proof available every year so that we could play with our whiskey properly.
That's right.
And as a fifth generation Texan, I can say that I do know that things are bigger in Texas, and that we definitely like things that are bold and unique. And, it's just like a steak. You can't take the temp off once you've gotten it there.
That's
you
true.
Can't put the proof back on, can you?
Yeah. Good
So-
point.
So you're talking about how you like the high proof on the rise. Are you a bourbon drinker too? Or you just stick to the rise?
I drink. Let's be real. I live in a donut shop. Do I have other pastries? Yes. Now, when you get to the point where you've been selling something for 7 years straight and it is all age statement and mostly 100% rye, does your palate change to want that spice all the time? Yes, the answer is. So there's a lot of times where I do taste a lot of bourbons that I feel just my palate just goes, wow, that's sweet to me. But when they're high proof and they're aged, let's be real. A lot of the time when I'm trying bourbons like that do hit my palate, it's when I'm at bars and restaurants and bartenders are like, dude, you got to try this. Right.
Right.
And
I'll try anything you're pouring me.
Hey, I'll try anything 3 times.
3 times.
3 times.
Twice on Sunday.
That's
Yeah, I'm a high proof. Well, we've dubbed it high proof whore. There's several of them in the chat. The higher the better for me, which was why I asked if you delved into the other side of things or just the high proof rye. I'm the same, but the higher the proof with the bourbon, the less sweetness comes out.
Yep.
And
The
more
more
of
spice.
everything else comes out. So I'm with you on that.
I get with the higher proof, with the age statement bourbons, I get a lot of a tannin and the conjures and the vanillins and, the natural flavors of the actual whiskey.
Yep.
And a lot of them that are proof down that are coming at a certain proof. And mind you, I was a maker's drinker for years. I've always been a whiskey drinker. It's literally how I found whiskey was when I was telling the story about being in Chicago. I was selling Australian wine. And when you're selling Australian wine in the middle of the last downturn we had, and everybody thought Shiraz was, yellowtail, and that's not what I sold.
Right.
I was at cocktail bars after work when I was on the road, and that's how I got bit by the bug of, craft spirits and, the small mom and pop startups. And I saw this thing from a mile away and knew that this thing was going to completely take off and
Blow up.
Yeah, and I put all my eggs in one basket, and I think it worked. I think so.
Working out just fine for you.
Doing all right so far.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I am doing something I've never done before. I just poured back-to-back Boss Hogs, and I now have the last 3 releases of Boss Hog poured in front of me that I now get to taste through. So thank you for being here, Doug, because that means I get to now do this, which is just going to be one of the highlights of my week. I'm not going to lie.
So yeah, if you want to talk about Black Prince, because like I said, the best rye I've ever had in my life. No lie, I freaking love this. This was the rye that changed my life, to be real honest.
This is the rye that made me stop saying I don't like rye, right? Like this is the rye that made me stop saying that and be like, okay, I don't like a lot of rye.
But this one is just, it's a magic moment in your life when you try. I've never had anyone say this was not one of the most amazing ryes I've ever had in their life.
Ooh, that smells so good.
Well,
It's the first time for me because I missed that episode or that live stream.
Episode.
So you missed the best ryes ever night. Yeah, and this was
It was the Handy's night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
We still have enough to we still have to review this on its own too.
I hope
So,
that you
Don't finish it all so we can review it.
That's
He
This
needs.
is
Sorry.
left for that.
I hear. I see. I see what
Is
he's
everybody
just like. I just want more. It's fine.
120.2 proof to not call
Yes,
it expired?
120.2. 16-year-old, or sorry, barrel 16, age 14 years. Finished in Armagnac barrels. And I guess if you want to explain Armagnac too, just in case people don't know what Armagnac is.
So Armagnac is great brandy from France, from the Armagnac region. What I have here is barrel 118.7. So different proof. And if you've noticed, the little topper.
tiny little man.
So this is what the original Black Prince looked like.
Interesting.
And then what happened is, when they came, they were all
Shit.
a little bit not straight. So therefore, we had to reinforce the topper, as you both have, the stocky, bulky Black Prince topper. But
He's a
points
cool prince.
for this is that it is a 14-year whiskey, single barrel proof, and it was really the whiskey that changed the game for our brand. It won best whiskey in the world from San Francisco,
As it should.
It really was the one that Fred Minnick said, I had to eat an entire plate of meat and cheese after I had it, and before I drank any other whiskey, because that was just a palate blast. And
Yeah, it is.
if you've ever heard Fred talk about whiskey, that's about the best compliment you could probably get. And Will, I love hearing that this is the one that made you think that rye whiskey didn't suck. And it was like I said, I remember exactly where I was. We had an employee retreat. I actually wasn't able to make it because I had a family gathering that I needed to attend. And long story short is, they all tried it on the employee retreat, and I got a phone call from our VP of strategy, and it's the guy that started, like I was saying before, we all four drove across the country and lived on the farm. He and I are the only two left, and he called me and he goes, man, I think it's the best we've ever put into a bottle. And I was like, come on, man. He's like, I'm serious, man. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but this might really change our entire lives. And I was like, okay. And then 2 months later, it got best whiskey in the world, and kind of off to the races after that, right? So this was around the same time that 15-year had come out that same year. It's just really, really a unique whiskey. The Spirit of Mauve, is the one that I'm drinking here. And it was basically because Mauve loved apples, right?
Makes sense.
And so therefore it's Calvados, which is French brandy, apple brandy. Some might say the first fermented spirit was apple brandy because it was rotted and somebody discovered it and it got them drunk, and now we have brandy.
Ooh, that smells good.
If you look at the topper for Spirit of Mauve, that is actually Mauve in her ascension into heaven. So, really, really cool.
On the nose,
Matt, your child that loves weapons that might kill a dog. Definitely think that one's heavy enough to do that.
Oh, absolutely. All of them are. They're all such beautiful things. Like, when they're finished, these are going on display.
Hide them from Violet.
Right now, I hide them for myself because I'll drink as you can see, I've drank the crap. I've also shared these a ton with a lot of other people. Several other YouTube channels have also gotten samples of this. So it's quite delicious, to say the least.
I like Mauve better.
finish, but no. Okay.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
That's fair. The finish to me on Mauve kind of drops off a cliff, and with Black Prince, the finish goes on and on and on and on. But to Mauve, it's really, really beautiful and fruity up front. The apple definitely presents itself. You still have that really beautiful black pepper ding, but to me, it just kind of drops off a cliff. and there's not the finish that Black Prince has. Black Prince just has a finish that goes on for days. And when we get to the next one, again, with the finish that just goes on for days.
Well, don't tell me how to live my life.
But
right?
I'm not.
I'm older than you.
I'll tell you
Dan.
this. If you let Mauve and chew it a little bit, you'll get
Work it around.
it a little bit more. You'll probably get a little bit more nuances of it. I'm with you. The residual sugar in Spirit of Mauve might shorten the finish a little bit because it'll come off a little bit quicker with the Armagnac finish and the Omishu, which is rad and cool and so different. It's got so much going on. There's so many different variables involved. I personally think that if I was sitting down by myself to just drink Boss Hog, Spirit of Mauve is what I would grab. If I was having food, if I was doing other things, if I was wanting to really make people's eyes pop, I mean, we're talking Black Prince, we're talking Samurai Scientist, but at the end of the day, once again, it really comes down to personal taste. It really has nothing to do with what I think. So I'm not here to.
Come on. What kind of whiskey somm are you?
They're delicious. It doesn't matter. They're all good.
He knows what he likes.
It's gross. Yeah, we put the Black Prince. We had a whiskey tasting here one night. Me and 4 other guys. We had the Black Prince, the Spirit of Mauve, and then we also had batch 1 and 2 of Kentucky Owl. We had the Old Carter 1 and 2 rye, the 1 and 2 bourbon, the 1998 Russell's Reserve, and there's like $3,000 on the table. This was hands down the winner. Was the Black Prince. We also had George T. Stagg, Thomas Handy, William Blue Weller that night too. It was a hell of a night.
Yep. Yeah, those are fun times, man. And
I'm sticking with the Mauve.
really the thing that
right
is kind of the underlying thing with Boss Hog is that it's always going to be obviously a statement. It's going to be something we've never done before. It's going to be finished whiskey and stupendous, as Dave used to always say. I mean, that was the underlying thing, is that it had to be stupendous.
Absolutely.
So, what's cool is that we can sit here. We could probably sit here for the next hour and argue about which is your favorite Boss Hog if you line them all, right?
No doubt about it.
There's no loser. There's no winner, right?
Oh,
It's just really based on your palate and what.
No doubt.
What you feel is right. But I love the fact that back to the whole wine game, we would put things into a brown bag and play Stump the Chump, right? I think you could do that with every one of these Boss Hogs and tell people, what am I drinking? And no one could probably tell you exactly what they're drinking. And it's probably the perfect precursor to talking about Samurai Scientist. So unlike any other whiskey that's ever been released to the planet, we partnered with a distillery in Japan to secure Omishu from this distillery, which Omishu is basically it is Soshu steeped in plums in stainless steel tank for 11 years, only released every 11 years. So unlike maybe what we might do in America or the New World, where we have one to release every year and fill another tank every year, no, they don't do it that way. It's one tank, and if you can find Omishu stateside, please call me, because I'm still trying to find it. But more importantly, when we did a Boss Hog little baby launch party, I could find Omishu Kit Kat to put in everybody's gift bag, which it's not cheap and it's really cool. It's very different, but you can look it up. They've got different flavors, but it's
interesting.
It's very, very, very unique. So it's plum steeped sochu, and then we had it shipped over, and we had our Vermont oak that was a new charred Vermont oak barrel that we filled with the umishu, and we let it fit for 2 months. Then we dumped the umishu out, and then we filled this 16-year aged 100% rye in for a month. It only took a month to influence the whiskey because obviously it was a flash finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other cool thing about this is that when you look at all the other releases of Boss Hog, you see that there's such the variance from like 115 all the way to
120.
120.2. Ding ding. And this last year, it was really, we could control more because it was only going to sit in there for a 30-day period. So
right.
You've got 120 to 122.
Yeah, this
is
is
the
the
only variance. Now, another fun little factoid for you is that we've gotten 3 waves of Boss Hog in Texas, and you have to register each proof. So there's actually 3 different proofs for the first time ever floating around the state of Texas.
Nice.
Wow. That's cool. Also, I unfortunately don't have one. The black topper with the Japanese writing on it is really cool. If you find one.
If you find one, you can call me on that too. I do not have one personally. But the 1,000 bottles that are a black scientist on the top. There's Japanese on the label, and it is. You can also register it online on our website and get a certificate of authenticity that is one of 1,000 bottles on Earth. So I had all the plans in the world to acquire one of said bottles in my travels, but as I travel to the front door to pick up Instacart orders right now, I don't foresee myself finding one of said bottles. And even when I was traveling, I went to Vegas to launch Piggyback in February, and every place into said, "Where can we find these? Because we haven't seen one yet." And then I go to a retailer in Dallas, and the guy says, "Hey, open up a box." And I sold 2 of those black toppers to one guy. And I go, "What?" So they're really random.
No! I'm going to slap you.
I'm like, "Who is it? Call him."
You did what?
I'll trade him a Boss Hog 3. So
yeah, there you go.
We are coming up on. Sorry to interrupt you, Doug. We are coming up on our 2-hour mark. Chat, if you guys have any questions for Doug, now is the time to get them in. We're going to be signing off here in just a little bit. I am going to go ahead and continue my mix. I'm going to go ahead and put the Boss Hogs in as well, so that I will now have a mix of all of the Whistlepigs.
By far the most expensive mix you've ever made.
Well, I'll show you something cool while we're here.
All right.
It's possible. Most expensive mix I've made. I don't know, Matt. We've had some really fun nights. I've made some pretty fun mixes.
Did you just pour all of that in there?
No, I left you until the sip.
You asshat.
That's me. Oh, what is that?
Yeah.
You have an infinity project?
My
Here, I got more.
sister, about 5 years ago, when I first started selling Whistlepig, bought me this. And I looked at her and I said, "That's really cool. You put our last name, on a decanter. And I don't take anything that I buy or drink out of a bottle. What would I do with this?" And then before literally the infinity bottles were really a thing, I thought to myself, as we started growing the company, we started releasing new whiskeys, I started taking little drams. At the end of each bottle, if I got down to about this much, I would just pour it in.
Oh, wow.
And so this is literally a infinity bottle with every whiskey we've released. And there are whiskeys that are not available here.
Oh my God.
We did a Vermont edition one year that was a 102 for the 802, which is the area code in all of Vermont, by the way.
Nice.
That's
not that many people in Vermont.
Yeah, it's not a huge state.
Yeah, so this is what that is. And then the night of Dave's passing, I actually I don't know if you can read that.
Is it engraved? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's
So
very
11/1/18,
wow.
Master P, Boss Hog. So I put a line on it.
That's awesome.
That night, and that's how much obviously has been poured out of it since. But it will be refilled when Homestock comes. It will be refilled with the next edition of Boss Hog. There's obviously Piggyback in there, but yeah, it's okay to blend
amazing.
whiskeys together to make something really random and cool.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Blending
we've got
is
two
fun.
different.
Three.
We got 3 different infinity bottles going on over here. Bourbon, Scotch, and a. Ew! Why did I even drink that?
Yeah, we have the every review we've ever done is in one bottle, except for the peated Scotch with its own bottle.
Yeah, so we've got 2 for the channel. We've got a
We got 2 for the channel
a
too.
Scotch one, and then we've got the bourbon and everything else.
That's everything we've ever reviewed except for peated Scotch. And this 175 of Weller is a giant infinity bottle of everything.
almost full.
we've reviewed. It's almost full. So
We've got another empty 175 to give you.
cool.
Brian's out. Bye, Brian. Have a good evening.
And there was a question from Donald for Doug here.
Here we go.
Whoa!
Gee,
What name is that?
What the absolute crap you got in there?
is that a 3-liter?
How big is
The
that?
3-liter, good eye.
Holy shit!
Dave's Infinity batch. So,
That's awesome.
we send these out to accounts that buy a barrel, so you can make your own. And
Wow.
that is literally when I get barrel samples and I sell one, we get 200 mLs. If I sell one, I give it the remainder to the account. The rest, the other bottle,
Goes in
I pour into that.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
And then my other one is an Amaro.
Nice.
So there's about 40 different Amaros in this.
Wow.
You know, Matt, when Will finishes that giant Kirkland bottle, we should just switch it all to that.
Yeah, we might. I think it's gigantic. It's like a baseball bat. 3. Wow, that's the biggest Whistlepig ball I've ever seen. That's for damn.
That's insane.
Monroe Doctrine asks, what's your opinion of the 3-tier system?
The 4-tier system in Texas.
The 3-tier system. I think distillers should be able to give stores who sell at MSRP.
Give 2 stores.
Oh, give to stores that sell at MSRP. Do you feel like you should be able to have more control over what your price point is?
Somewhat of a loaded question, but the final answer is probably yes. You know? If we could fixate our SRPs across the nation, it'd be incredibly awesome, not only for you as consumers, but for us as business owners. You know, us being somebody who's still a small, privately owned entity. I joke all the time that I have 0.01% of the company, but I do have equity. The fact of the matter is there is probably no real way to fix that because of the amount of control states, the amount of, really, we could talk for an hour on this subject alone.
Right.
Every state's its own country and has its own.
Especially, bring Texas into the mix.
Yeah.
Texas.
You're not wrong. And actually, Doug, we might actually have you back and have that conversation one night and just have a couple-hour conversation about
How it works,
how that works and why. And yeah.
Well, and I
That
might drink that.
That might be a fun evening as well.
There's another question up further up. Donald, did you see that one?
Yeah. I'll do that one. Says, do you have a favorite rye that you like to use? I guess Rennes, Abazuri, Brissetto, etc. So I guess what's your favorite type of rye varietal?
I mean,
all of them.
The kind that comes in a bottle with a Whistlepig label on it.
Yeah. There's not really one rye varietal that I see standing out against another when we're doing any sort of side-by-side tests per se. It's really the styles, whether it's a Maryland or a Pennsylvania rye, being that it's, is it kind of leaning towards a 51% minimum, or is it leaning towards 100%? And
Sure.
have an enzyme to activate, or is it, just a natural progression? So that's. I haven't ever seen anything, because we see things when we do what we do so well aged with the age statements that we deal with.
Sure.
That it's hard, really hard to derive anything. And if I was the master distiller or master blender, or tasting, white pig as we call it more often,
Nice.
then I would probably have a difference of opinion on that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, a lot of what I'm dealing with is final product.
Sure. Makes sense.
And yeah.
There's Emily wants to know, is there a rum finished one? Or if so,
earlier, it's a the 100% Peruvian rum finished. This was from 2 years ago, but this was a single finish of 12-year that was based out of the Houston market. So we will have different 12-year single finishes that you should look for. And I do know that Specs had some Peruvian rum finish. Pogo's bought some Exo Cognac. They still have. But we're playing around with all sorts of different fun stuff.
Yes, I like all the finished stuff. So that's.
I knew about the mead thing about a month ago, and literally, I'm glad I knew about it, because our Benny's follower threw out how much he enjoyed that finish as well.
So, now, is there any meat in Texas, or is that only up in Chicago?
That was sold all to Benny's in Chicago.
Okay.
Just kind of like the Exo Cognac finish.
Okay.
Sold all to Pogo's here in Texas.
Okay.
But
so what we're hearing is, Dan, we need a sample of that bottle. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
That will solve that problem, because apparently it's so amazing. We're going to need to have to try some of that. So for science, we need to know. It's very important.
That's interesting.
To compare to the other ones.
That's fun.
And apparently there's another rum finish at Benny's as well. So there we can get, I guess, so Benny's apparently has 2 different ones. Even better. So I assume Benny's is like a giant liquor store up in Chicago. Is that, because I've never been up there, so I don't know anything about it. But I assume that's the case.
Outside of Specs in Texas, Benny's is one of the largest strongholds in the Midwest, so to speak.
Okay.
I wouldn't consider Texas the Midwest. In the central region, the largest out of Specs is probably going to be Benny's, but also keep in mind, they don't have nearly as many stores as Specs.
Yeah.
They just really have the clientele that drive things like Whistlepig, right?
Okay.
So they've got some unique offerings. I've got some bottlings. I used to cover the Central and for 3 years, and there are some 12-year bespoke blends before we even really had bespoke blends that we allowed those guys at Benny's to have 10% of this to put in their bespoke blend, because no one could get it. Kind of fun stuff. So there's a lot of cool, fun stuff that always heads to Chicago, just like does Texas, because obviously I've been based here since day one, and have always done my best to make sure that everybody lives here that gets the first shot at as many cool things as possible. So,
and we appreciate that. Always looking for new cool stuff, that's for sure. I think you guys are certainly successful at that. Oh, hey, Violet, you want to do it again?
Is she just like hanging out there waiting?
No, she's playing a computer game.
Yeah, she's on the computer.
Here.
Right there on
at the table?
At the table, yep.
Gotcha.
All
yeah,
right.
that literally lives like 5 minutes from us. So,
all right.
all the time.
We got a super chat from King Jack D. Thank you for another fun Monday night. Cheers and a good night. All right, you gonna do it?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, King.
We'll see you around the Discord.
That's right, man.
All right, what are you doing? Are you switching hands now? Oh, okay. Well, okay, well, why don't you hit it now? Okay, that's a good one.
Steve or another moderator, if y'all could link or drop the link to Discord in the chat. Again, yes, I saw that earlier. But
yeah, Steve dropped it earlier. was very good. Violet.
Matt, at least, is always hanging around at Discord. Me and Sarah pop in from time to time as well.
I get your notifications, guys, but sometimes, life happens and you got a 6-year-old. So, yeah.
Another
Oh, here's another one, Violet.
super chat before we sign off.
Here, go, Violet. You do one for Jason from the Mash and Drum. Awesome last night. Thanks, Jason. We appreciate it. All right, do it again.
Thanks, Jason.
Buddy. Oh, this mix is really lovely.
Okay, good.
Can
Can we wait till Violet gets a metal one of these? That's going to be real entertaining.
Oh, man.
So much fun.
If you want to hear, Will, a mix that people from our company would kill me for saying on live TV, but take 12-year, 2/3.
Okay.
15-year, 1/3.
Beautiful. I will try it here in a little bit.
Oh, we can do it right now. I don't care. I'm willing to try. I mean, we want to do it for science and for the people.
Hey, man, if science is not important right now,
Science is the most
Oh,
important.
agreed. Absolutely.
Don't put it in this glass.
Her 12-year and 15-year.
I probably need to rinse here.
Yeah, because that had.
We've got glasses plenty.
Yes.
All right, so we got.
How much? What'd you say?
2/3, 12, 1/3, 15.
Will do.
So, backstory on this: we did a Rye Heritage event in New York in 16, and this was the same year that we launched 15. And the purist that I am, I thought, why would you ever? And our steward in New York, so I was on the development team for 15-year, and I'll be the first to admit, as much as I love 12-year, 15-year, I have to. I said it before. I need to have a cigar. I need to be outside. I need to have food. I need, it's a situational whiskey for me, right?
Yeah.
And so he goes, man, I got you. Watch this. And he pours 2/3 12 because he knows I love 12 year. And he put 1/3 15. And he goes like this, like Gary Reagan, right?
Oh, nice.
And then hands it to me and I go,
That's awesome.
Ooh. You're not wrong. The nose is really spectacular.
Here you go.
it's
Smack it
another
hard,
one.
Violet.
Says Will B says smack it hard, Violet. So that's your job. Oh, I think we got another. I missed one.
Ooh.
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 Yes. And then
Yeah.
smack it again, Violet, for Doug.
Cheers, Will, and cheers, Doug.
All right. Well, hold on. Okay, smack it for Will, and then we'll do one for Doug in a minute. All right. Now hold on. Now it says Doug says, "Let's hear it for yourself blending." Ralphie would be proud. Okay, hit it again for Doug.
This is good.
Yeah, that's a really lovely blend.
There we go.
15.
Good job. One more. Okay. All right. Good job.
For good luck. Thanks, Violet.
Thank you, Violet. Thank you, Doug and Will. We appreciate it. All right. So let's see what this tastes like.
It's pretty damn good.
Tastes pretty damn good.
Smells awesome.
Yes, indeed.
The nose on it's everything you love about 12-year with the depth of 15.
Right. It has that added richness.
That's pretty
of 15.
freaking great.
Yeah.
I like this idea. Anyone at home that has both of these, yeah, you should definitely mix these. This is a great idea for a blend. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, Clifton, no problem. Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked out Clifton McDaniel, definitely check out his channel. He's got a cool other channel for sure.
Yes, indeed.
Reviews and travel and all sorts of fun stuff, and you'll be very entertained. Let's put it that way. Oh, and Violet, Doug says thank you.
Well, Doug, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this Monday. Appreciate you going over all the things that you do with Whistlepig and going over the brand with us and walking us through all these wonderful whiskeys that you guys put out there for us. We really appreciate the heck out of it, buddy.
Heck yeah.
Well, Sarah, Matt, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I used to always say whenever I do whiskey dinners or we do anything consumer event and we're out and I'm talking to people, it allows me to really realize where the whiskey goes. And sometimes we get caught up too much in the cogs of looking at spreadsheets and numbers and all those things and at airports and on phone calls and we all live the life in just different ways and forms, but it's a unique time right now for us to all be able to sit in the comfort of our own homes and have a dram together to talk about it and to learn about it, to even blend it and play with it, and really just, have some memories that we're making for ourselves and continue to evolve our education on not only, rye, but Whistlepig, and maybe some boring stories about what the hell I've done in my life as well. So I appreciate all the time. If we want to do this again, you've got my time, you've got my attention. Let's have some fun. So
Okay, hold on. Yes, so we have another one from Vegas Art says, late to the party, but Violet's doing a great job. Okay, now you can hit it again.
Thank you. Yeah, and to play off of that, Mondays are my favorite time, even before all of this happened, just being able to sit and whoever we have on, or if we don't have anybody on, just conversing with the people in the chat. And, it is one of my favorite things to do when it comes to this channel, is doing lives.
The lives are the best.
Monday night, we do it every Monday night, and sometimes we'll go on other channels, and it really is my favorite part of being a whiskey tuber.
Yeah.
Besides drinking all the whiskey, but comes with it.
Well, you were saying you didn't know where all the whiskey went sometimes, and it was all just spreadsheets. At least one bottle always goes to Matt, so you have that going for you, just so you know.
He has it.
Yeah, we'll when all this stuff ends, we'll definitely have to set up an event with you, and maybe we can do a dinner too. Maybe do a couple events. Obviously, we love Whistlepig based on the collection of it here. Would love to do an event, introduce more people to Whistlepig that haven't had it in the chat, to let them come over and try it, which would be even better, because we actually have a rather large local club too that we've around 100, 150 people that are in here, and we usually get 50 to 60 will show up, sometimes more. Just depends. I'm sure Whistlepig will be a big draw, so probably larger night that evening.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
If you're up for doing that with a bunch of crazy ass whiskey people, who love really good whiskey, they'd be all for it.
Crazy ass whiskey nerds, not just people.
Well, that's true.
Nerds.
That's good. Who want to listen and learn all this cool stuff and drink really awesome whiskey at the same time.
That's right.
You have me out too often, it'll get really boring. I promise. I'm not.
Cliffy said he'll join us. Just send him an invite.
Yeah. You can fly from California to Texas. There you go.
We got you.
We'd love to have you, Cliff.
Heck yeah.
You wouldn't be the first one. We've had people fly in from people come in Connecticut, from Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, California, Washington. People come in from all over the country for events we've had here. It's been really awesome, to be honest. So, yeah.
Luckily, I can drive.
It's always a good time. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Doug, it's been awesome for you hanging out with us. We're going to close this down. We'll talk to you after this shuts down. But thanks everybody for joining in. This was an awesome evening.
Yes, it was.
Big here, and man, learned a ton and had a great night. So cheers, everyone, and we'll see everybody next week for a next week will be barley expiration with a Bruichladdich and Wesseling with Erica and Mauve. So that'll be good fun time.
Hey, that's for Pete night, bitches.
Yeah. So Erica and Mauve will be here for all the barley from Bruichladdich and Wesseling. So it'll be fun. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining this evening.
Cheers,
everybody.
Cheers.
Mm.